morning everyone, and welcome to my craft room, or whatever time of the day it is you're watching this video. I hope you're having a great one. Thanks for purchasing my November 2022 product class. The product we have been, or products we have been focusing on this month are the Fitting Florets Designer Series paper, some examples of which you can see there, and the glorious gold swirls, which are part of that suite as well. So you purchased this kit, the basic kit. You got a whole packet of the Designer Series paper and a whole packet of the swirls. So hopefully you're loving those as you go through them. Anyway, so we've got three card designs for this this class. You should have two enough in your packs for two of each of these designs, so hopefully one for keeping and one for passing on would be lovely. I've got examples of these two cards here, so we'll work off those examples. This last one here is a beautiful easel card, and my mum fell in love with it, and so I gave her my original to give to a friend of hers for her 90th birthday. So yeah, we're going to be playing it by ear. Actually, I made sure I took pictures of it before I gave it to her. So if I run into trouble, I'll refer to the pictures for that one, and I'll show you the finished product right at the very end. Anyway, so let's get started. As usual, I'll do 3 separate videos so you can jump to exactly the card you're working on rather than scrolling through. No one's ever said that they dislike that method, so I'll keep on with it. Also, there will be measurements and the products used in your PDF as well. I'll actually refer you from the PDF straight to this video when it comes to doing the actual assembly of the card, but the measurements and the products and some lovely pictures will be in the PDF. Okay, so let's get started. We might as well start with the one that I'm doing blind first, with this easel card. See how it goes. If it all goes terribly wrong, we'll have to start again. Okay, so in your kit, as I say, you'll have enough for 2 versions of this card. Got some ribbon. You won't have some bling because we're going to use the gold swirls out of your pack. And you do need to cut yourself some, well, not cut yourself, hopefully don't cut yourself. You do need to cut yourself 2 pieces of this really pretty flowery paper here from your Designer Series paper. The measurements will be in the PDF, as I mentioned. Plus you need to fussy cut, and the danger word, a couple of the flowers from the other floral paper as well. There's one that's got some larger flowers. I haven't got it nearby. I think I've used most of it. Larger flowers. So you need to fussy cut yourself a couple of those as well. These ones are purely fussy cut because that's what they there's no dies for those. There are some flowers in the set that you can use your dies for. So if you prefer to swap over to those rather than fussy cut, by all means use a couple of those rather than these more complicated ones from the paper itself. But anyway, I have fussy cut these from the paper. Now, when I say fussy cut, if you compare my little flowers here to the ones from the actual paper, you'll notice that I have cut some pieces off. So where it gets a bit too fussy to be fussy cut, I just basically go, oh, well, we'll cut that bit off. I think there's some different flowers poking out the edge of this one and some extra leaves and things, but I've cut them off completely. And it works with the design, so don't worry too much if you find yourself having to do that. Okay, so let's have a little look. So now I'm assuming you've cut your paper and you've fussy cut your flowers, which will pop them away a bit. Let's have a look and see what else. It's a fair bit happening with this card, so be careful, as I say always, be careful when you get it out of the packet. The base colour is polished pink, which is really, really sweet, lovely colour. And so as with any easel card, you've got 2 parts to your design. You've got this sort of card base part here, 11 inches long, scored at 5.5, and might be faint in yours, but there is another score at 2 3/4. You need to burnish that one as well, because that forms the forward-facing face of your easel there. Okay, so probably grab your bone folder and burnish those. So burnish the 5.5 one and burnish the 2 3/4 one as well. And that's exactly what the fold you're looking for there, sort of a triangle coming back on itself there. Okay, and then you've got another piece of polished pink, and it is 5.5 long. So if you pop those two together, they should match each other perfectly. So that one folded in half and this one are exactly the same profile. Okay, so we're going to start decorating this one here first. Okay, so I haven't ripped you off. You've got a piece of, now this is balmy blue. It goes, well, it goes sort of cute with the colours. Basically, I've taken the colours from the paper. So you've got 2 squares of balmy blue here. So one of them is for the base of your easel, so we can put that aside, and one of them is for this one. You notice one of them's got the frame cut out of it, and you should have, or you will have the frame here. It was just way too much paper to waste to actually give you the whole thing. So you've actually got the paper and the little oval. The oval, well, there's 2 of them actually, a big oval and a small oval that are actually just surplus. You can keep those and hopefully use them in a card. You do actually want the one with the big hole in it, the rectangle with the hole in it, and you want the frame itself, of course, as well. Okay, so I took that from it, to save paper. Fundamentally, and knowing that it was going to be covered with our designer series paper, so you're not really going to see that there's a hole there. Okay, so we might as well use our holy one first. Grab some glue or some snail or whatever your adhesive of choice is. In the back of our designer series paper, pop your glue. I have to take my glasses off. Can't see a thing with my glasses, which seems counterintuitive. We're going to pop this one first onto our balmy blue, like so. And as I say, look, you wouldn't even know that there was a hole there, and I've saved myself sheets and sheets of cardstock. And then we'll pop glue on the back of that little ensemble, and we'll pop it on that one there. Okay, so you've got a larger border of the polished pink and a smaller border of the blue is the look we're going for, just like that. Okay, right, so that's done. Okay, so what we might do now is bring in our frames, and again, as I say, I'm going to have to remind myself here of what the thing is supposed to look like since I've given it away. Okay, that's what it's supposed to look like there, if you can keep that in your brain. Okay, cool. Right, let's do that. So you've got another frame, or at least you should. Yep, I already picked it up and popped it on my page. This is the larger ornate frame from the Framed Florets. Really, really lovely. So what I'm going to do is just grab our glue again. This one's going to be glued straight to the designer series paper. So just a little bit of fine glue all the way around the edge there, and just try and get that central and straight on your designer series paper. Yep, so just straight onto the paper. Okay, just like that. Then we're going to grab our little embossed frame, this one here, the smaller one. This one, and I think you've probably seen me do this in videos prior to today. I find my small embellishments. I had a class yesterday, and everything's still packed in its little class packs. Okay, so we're going to grab our mini dimensionals. They fit pretty much perfectly, and we're going to mount this one on those. Okay, so this one fits sort of snugly, but not exactly inside the larger frame. It sort of overlaps the edges a wee bit, so you don't see any gaps. It's quite a nice fit You sort of see the best of both of them. I'll bring back in our little. So, but you have to sort of be light-fingered with it, just so you don't commit yourself before you're happy with the placement. There we are. Okay. Right, so you will also have a white oval. So this is actually the inside of that embossed oval. It's the same size. We're going to fit that into the middle of our, like a mirror on the wall. So position it so that you don't see too much paper around the edge. So sort of use your glue to move it around so that it's in the middle there like that. Now, probably would have been wise, but I wanted to see it in place before I actually stamped the sentiment, because then what we're going to do is bring in our little flowers. I'm trying to remember which way I had them. I'm going to bring in our little flowers around the edges there, and you've also got the ribbon to bring in. So yeah, so you can see with your flowers in place, do I want to go this way? Maybe I want to go this way. Yeah, with your flowers in place, you can see that's the centre area there where we want to put our sentiment. So I'll find the stamp set. I'm going to use for a special person on a special day. That's the sentiment I used for my mum's, or mum asked for her friend. So we'll use that on this one as well. Who knows who'll get this one once it's finished. So the main colour, as I mentioned, is polished pink. So you could quite easily go polished pink on the sentiment. I'm going to take it a wee bit darker, and I'm using Melon Mambo. It's just, it's I think, a darker version of the petal pink, and the sentiment will stand out clearer. So I'm just going to line that up. I'm sitting not straight on my chair, which makes lining up a wee bit difficult. But there we are. So as I say, it's a slightly darker version of the polished pink, which I think works for the sentiment. There we are. Okay, so now we can bring in our two little sets of flowers, and we can just sort of position them now so that they nuzzle in and around that sentiment really nicely. Make sure you don't go too far off the edge or at all off the edge. And we're going to pop them on like that. Okay, so we're actually going to pop glue onto the piece of the frame where they actually sit. And then, as I think you've probably seen me do before, we'll bring in some reinforcing dimensionals on the inside of the frame and the outside of the frame, just to make sure it doesn't sag. I think I'm going to turn that one around. Forgive me, it doesn't matter too much, but I'm definitely going to turn that one around. Yeah, that's better. Okay, so that's sort of, you could leave it at that, but to my mind that sort of sags a wee bit on the inside and the outside. So I'm going to just add a couple of dimensionals, especially on the inside, just to keep it up and away from the frame. I'm taking both covers off these little dimensionals first, so I don't have to fiddle around once they're in place, but makes them a little bit stickier. Here we are, so that's that one, and then a couple in this one as well, the top one. We might got bling to add, but we'll add that all at once at the end. That one's got so sticky, it's sticking to me. There we are. So we're going to add some bling, of course, and a ribbon. I might have to add the ribbon now. Then at least we know we've got it in place. Oh, come on, you. How can my fingers be more sticky than paper? Okay, one more, and then we'll swap to ribbon. There we are. Okay, so there we have our little flowers in place just there. It's really nice. I love these fussy cut flowers. Okay, ribbon. You have some ribbon. You've got the polished pink silk edge ribbon, which is really pretty. I love it, and it goes really well with these colours, obviously. So just tie yourself a wee bow. Trim off any extra that you have. I've got one pair of scissors that will not cut ribbon, and I always pick them up. Always the way, isn't it? The one that you can't use. Okay, so we'll grab some glue dots. Always, I tend to attach my ribbons with glue dots just so I can be sure that they're in the final position and not going to move around. And I'm going to nestle that. Hopefully I haven't got a protruding, too much of a protruding dimensional. I'm going to pop that in, just tuck it in up and under that little flower there and arrange it so it looks nice. And that's our little bow, just like there, like that. Okay, as I say, we've got some bling to add, but we'll do that in a moment. Okay, now we'll get rid of this one. That's so pretty. That could be a card on its own, couldn't it? We'll bring in our easel base. Okay, so as I mentioned, you've got another piece of balmy blue and a piece that you've cut of the designer series paper. Same deal here. Just add your designer series paper to your balmy blue. And then you're going to pop this on the inside of the card base. So remember we mentioned that this is the shape you're going for. If you flip that over, this is the layer, the area that you want to pop this one on. And that goes in there. Again, you've got a slightly larger border of petal pink and a smaller border of balmy blue. Okay. And then what you need to do now is grab this forward-facing face here, forward-facing face, I've said it again. That is going to be glued to the bottom half of your easel there. So it's going to go just on there, line it up perfectly like that. So when it's closed, it sits perfectly in line with each other like that. And when it's open, it sits up like that. Okay, so just add your glue to this one. I actually find it easier just to then close it down so it's flat and then line up the top so that it fits perfectly and lines up, so you can use your surface to make sure those edges line up perfectly, which they should do. Okay, so that is your easel there. Just let that sit for a second. We might just let that glue dry for a moment because we are going to be mucking around with that. We'll bring in our, you've got a the layer double oval punch shapes here. One, the oval is in white and the serrated oval is in balmy blue. I'm going to pop a sentiment on there, and again I'm going to use my petal, my melon mango. It's only a very small little sentiment, so you could, if you think you've got something that fits better, I'm going to use the Celebrate because I think it fits perfectly in that little oval. And it's just a very nice general sentiment, isn't it, really? Because everything can be celebrated. There we are. Now what we're going to do is pop this onto our balmy blue, and I've got to remind myself where I put the dimensionals here. As with all easel cards, you need it to be raised up a wee bit so that it, so that it sits, so that you get a sort of a foot for your easel to stand on. So I'm actually going to just check my picture. I'm going to pop the dimensionals onto the back of the white oval, and which means that we therefore glue the blue one to the card base. Now, big rule with easel cards, that the placement of this little foot determines how high your easel will sit. So if you want your easel to sit really high, you have to push this foot back a wee bit. And if you want it to, so you're happy for it to sit forward, you can bring the foot forward as well. Or if you're happy for it to sit low, if you see what I mean. High is up here, so you need to put your foot right up at the back of the card. And if you're happy for it to sit low, you can pop it towards the front. I'm going for something a bit sort of middle of the road here, so I'll pop it somewhere around the middle. Don't want it to be too high or too low. I'm sort of happy about there, so I'm going to pop my foot sort of about that. What is it? It's just below halfway. Just make sure it's straight and central, and then my card's going to sit like that. Oh, that's the theory anyway. If it's going to fold forward, just going to sit up against that little ridge there. Okay, I'm going to leave that to dry for a second because we don't want it to push itself forward at all, but that's okay. So we'll add our bling. So you've got from your pack, you've got your gold swirls. Close that down for a second and we can add some gold swirls. Just pop them, whatever you usually do with your dimensionals or with your embellishments, whatever configuration you like. I always go odd numbers, and I always try and get some sort of triangle happening. So there's 3 there in a triangle on the front. I'm actually going to do as well is add a couple. So I'm going to make it 5. I'm going to add a couple down here as well, because they're nice low profile embellishments. They're not going to stick into your card or make a groove when the card's closed. So I've got some bling down there as well. Okay, so that is card number 1, and that's what it looks like. So that's the one what it looked like when I gave it to my mum, except I had a little gold 90 on it for the friend that she was giving it to. So there we are. So if you want somewhere to write your message, I've realised looking at this now there is no blank white panel. You could probably just cut yourself a white rectangle and pop it like inside there somewhere so it's hidden away, or on the back even. You could go any sort of those out of the way places. So, unless you want it to be seen. There we are. So that's card number 1. I hope you like that one. I do love that paper, and I love those little die cuts as well, those little fussy cut flowers. Now, as I say, if you weren't into fussy cutting, just use your dies if you've got them, and you can die cut the different flower from that same paper that fits the die. But as I say, fussy cutting is not too hard, and you can cut down on some of the fussiness. Okay, so that's, as I say, card number 1. I'll have a bit of a tidy up and come back with card number 2.